Welcome back everyone to the Mojito channel, the channel where we try to separate the bullshit from the not bullshit. Okay, so here's a burning subject, pun intended, the Amazon forest fires. There's been a lot of talk recently on all the internet, especially on Facebook, but pretty much everywhere, about the Amazon rainforest being on fire for about a month now, and people are not sure of what's going on and what they should be thinking about it. Should you be worried? Should I be worried? Well, it's a yes and no situation, and it's a little confusing, even for people who understand what's going on, because a lot of the data we have is more extrapolations and previsions more than actual facts. So it's the first thing you should be keeping in mind. A lot of the numbers of fires that have been reported are not actual reports but estimations. We don't really know the exact number of fires. We don't really know the exact area that is being burned. It's maybe less than yesteryear or the year before that. That is the second thing you should be keeping in mind. It's not new. The Amazon rainforest has been burned for decades now, and actually the number of fires in the rainforest, because fires are a tool of deforestation. Most of the time when you hear about deforestation, the people who deforest don't go with their chainsaws and cut trees one by one. They set the forests on fire. It's much simpler, and it's much better for, planting grazing fields for cattle, which is 80% of deforestation is for, beef. It's not for oil or whatever you may think. A bunch of it is for cotton, which is also pretty bad. Especially organic cotton, which is really popular recently, but it's really, really bad for the environment. But most of it is for beef. Now, it's not a new phenomenon, and it's the number of fires right now, if the estimates are correct, are kind of on the average compared to the previous years. It's not really a huge increase in the usual number of fires. So why are we talking about this much now? And it's a bit weird because I've seen a lot of pictures that have been circulating on Facebook, and a lot of them are pictures from like 20, 30 years ago, including one who was tweeted by my president Emmanuel Macron, who tweeted a picture from the Amazon burning that was from like 30 years ago. It was a little bit shameful, even if his heart was probably in the right place, which is like try to secure as more votes as possible, as every politicians always do. But it's not really a new thing. And it has actually been decreasing a lot it has been decreasing a lot for decades. The rates of fires 10, 20 years ago was much, much higher than it is these past few years. And I don't want to say in 2019 because we still don't really know the actual number, because most of the data we have is not data but estimates, extrapolations, estimations. So we may have actual data in weeks, months, but right now we don't. And actually some organisms that are observing the fires, like for example NASA, is saying that actually maybe, depending on some calculations, the number might actually be lower than what happened in 2018, 2017, 2016, you know. So there's this, there's that, but still, a lot of the fires that are happening at the moment are not where they should be. Um, there's a certain number of areas of acres of land that are green lit to be burned, because it's really important for Brazil, because they burn the forest down to breed cattle, and which then they slaughter and export. Brazil is the world's biggest exporter of beef. So for their economic growth, they're being pushed to burn more and more of forest. And there's some areas that are deemed less important than others, so they're approved for burning. And in some areas that will already burn in the past, that are technically automatically approved for being burned again, because there's no trees there anymore, just weeds. But the areas with the fires are actually going a little bigger than they should be, and the area covered is actually a little larger than it should be, so nobody really knows if it's intentional or not. Some people are pointing fingers at Jair Bolsonaro, the president of Brazil. He did roll back some of the environmental protections for Brazil, and he did approve a lot of deforestation stuff. Maybe some of it was, secret deals and stuff like that, and maybe he's turning a blind eye to illegal deforestation, because some of it is legal because it's good for the economy. Some of it is illegal because still gotta protect the rainforest. Also, you should keep in mind that most of the oxygen produced by the trees in Brazil doesn't really go away from Brazil. The oxygen is kind of, it goes up and down, but it doesn't really travel all that. When the one that's produced by trees mainly stays pretty close to the ground. It is important as a carbon sink, though, because trees do absorb a lot of CO2, and the CO2 that is, responsible of the greenhouse effect. Most of the oxygen on Earth is produced by algae and vegetable plankton. This really, really tiny algae that is the whale food, and the oceans produce the overwhelming majority of the oxygen we breathe. So we could lose all trees and still be fine globally, especially since there are some plants that grow really fast and absorb more CO2 than trees. For example, bamboo. Bamboo is great. If you want to, you can plant it fucking anywhere as long as there's water. And yeah, it grows really, really fast, and it absorbs a lot of the bad greenhouse gases that it turns into food and into pretty little shoots and leaves. So yeah, trees are important, but they're not, there were already animals on Earth before there were trees, and the animals were doing fine. Trees are actually have actually appeared quite recently. There were already like fish in the sea, dinosaurs in the land, and trees appeared after that. I mean, between the dinosaurs. You get what I mean. That's not exactly the point, but yeah, it's a little misleading to call the Amazon the lung of the earth, as some people do. Yet there's a bigger problem. Is that the how do you say? It's a feedback loop. It's a feedback loop that is going on in the Amazon, and that is maybe going critical right now, as in there are less trees, So because of less trees, there's less CO2 that is being absorbed, and because of that, there is something new, which is wildfires. Wildfires are not a natural phenomenon in the rainforest of Brazil. You may when you hear a forest fire, you may just think that, yeah, it's summer, the sun is hot, so sometimes trees catch on fire. If you're like, it happens in California, it happens in the Australian bush, it happens a lot in my native region of Provence, but that's not what happens normally in Brazil. The overwhelming majority of fires that are happening in the Amazon rainforest are being started by farmers who want to raise cattle or to want to produce cotton. This is the biggest reasons. So now there's not enough trees to sustain the ecosystem, and because of that, wildfires are starting to happen. They should not be happening. So that is bad, and that could, because of the feedback loop effect, be getting worse soon. Once again, these are predictions, projections, extrapolations, and estimations. There's nothing sure about it, but it might well happen. Yeah, wildfires in the rainforest are not normal. They should not be happening. Most of the fires are man-made to raise cattle. If you want to do something, eat less beef. That's probably the biggest thing you can do. Probably the best thing you can do if you want to save your rainforest. Eat less beef. You love meat and you can't stop. Eat more chicken. And that's it. Really 80% of what is being burned is about 80% is to raise cattle, which is the biggest export of. Brazil is the biggest beef exporter in the world. And shit, I forgot the conclusion. Right, maybe I should stop now. I've given you all the information that you need to have a clearer picture of what's going on. What did I? Shit! I had a great conclusion. Your mind is probably full of things right now, full of trees and beef and fires and stuff. I don't want to edit this video because it was a fucking perfect first take, and I tend to be like, I really proud when I nail it on the first take like that. So yeah, just if you want to do something, because you're worried, eat less beef. Maybe talk to your friends about eating less beef. Fucking shit, man. Yeah, I had the perfect conclusion, but I guess I'll post it in the video description or in the comments later. I've really said everything I know and everything you should know about the issue. Thanks for watching. If you want to help, if you want to help me continue doing these videos, there's my Patreon that is linked. There's no, that's it really. This channel is not monetized, so you are more than welcome to keep your ad blocker on, and if you want to help, Patreon is the way to go, really. Yeah, that's it. Oh yeah, deforestation. Deforestation could these days reach the amount of 1 football field per second. 1 football field per second. It's at least a few, at least a dozen per minute. So that may sound like a lot. It's because it is a lot. The problem has been, talked out of proportion But that shouldn't, the problem with a lot of environmentalists is that they tend to like raise alarms and they tend to exaggerate everything like fuck, and that make them sound not believable, not serious, and they're really playing against their own team. I despise environmentalists because of that. Because of other things, but that's the main reason. But yeah, listen to facts, listen to science, and I've given you all the facts that we have at the moment. I've given you all the solid, hard data and all the reality of things without all the fucking fluff, without all the people freaking out. Don't freak out, but, vote with your wallet. Eat chicken instead of beef. And that's already a lot that you can do. That would already be something huge. Yeah, thanks for watching. Think about subscribing to my channel. Think about subscribing to my Patreon. That would be really cool. And peace!